Yeah, do you guys want us to watch Cadet Kelly? Please just respond and tell me yes, because I want to watch Cadet Kelly, so I want you to want us to watch Cadet Kelly.
Get home from school, turn on my TV. Who are these friends staring right back at me? Now that we're older, why don't you come over and go back in time with me? 90s babies nostalgia.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Jessica, and this is 90s Babies Nostalgia, where two fully grown millennial women rewatch and sometimes watch for the first time iconic tween entertainment from the early 2000s.
Just to be clear, we are not sponsored by nor affiliated with any of the brands, the channels, the shows mentioned in our podcast. We just really like talking about TV. And today, the TV that we're talking about is Lizzie McGuire, Season 2. Wow, we've really slowed that down.
We did. I just stayed silent at the end because I was like, I don't know what pace we're going at here, so I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut.
That's what I did too. And we're finally at the bitter end.
Yes. Episodes 27 through 34, so it's the last 8 episodes, I think, in season 2. And then we're going to do a little bit of recap on the characters and then see where they are now, and then just talk about how we thought about Lizzie McGuire altogether, which I'm sure you guys already know by now, but
we like to talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do.
Mm-hmm.
I want to... Well, Jessica, you had something you wanted to ask at the start.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to ask everyone how you're doing. Let us know. How are you? Have you been taking time for yourself? Have you done anything fun this fall season? Who knows when this episode is coming out, but currently it's almost Halloween, so just wanted to check in, see how all our listeners are doing. I'm not doing great, but I hope you're doing better than me.
It's been a struggle, but we're pulling through, and I think the fact that we're still here and recording and posting is a testament to our strength.
Yes, I agree.
I wanted to say thank you to anyone who's provided feedback, to anyone who's listened. I know that we got a couple comments on an Even Stevens video, particularly season 2, and for some reason YouTube's done this thing where they just eat the comments. Like, I can see the notification, I got the email where I can read it, but when I go into YouTube, I can't actually see the comment. It's not appearing on the video. So, thank you anyway, and maybe Instagram is safer for now.
Yeah, DM us on Instagram or comment on Instagram, because our YouTube comments are just in the abyss.
But if you want to like and watch on YouTube, that helps.
Yes,
and
please
subscribe.
do that.
And also, per one of those comments, I wanted to make a little correction, sort of. So we found out that Disney, providing us nothing, providing us the bare minimum sometimes, uploaded episodes in the wrong order. And I don't know why they did that.
Yep.
So, per our continuity issues with Even Stevens, so I matched it up. I looked at all of the runtime or air orders for Even Stevens and Lizzie McGuire. Lizzie McGuire's fine. Lizzie McGuire is the same as it aired on Disney Channel. And yes, episodes are filmed in different orders, and there's a production order. We don't really care about that as viewers because we wouldn't know that as kids.
Yep. Because we're consuming it by watching it. So we're going by that order, and we're choosing to just forget the production order altogether because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and because a lot of shows film out of order intentionally. However, Even Stevens, seasons 1 and 3 are mostly the same. They're a little bit funky. Season 2 is completely out of order, which means that Nelson and Beans' introductions are actually came before the other episodes that we saw first. So, I apologize for our rant, but only a little bit.
Yeah, because if you're rewatching, you'll go through the same experience we did on Disney Plus because they've just chosen that Disney Plus is going to have a different air order than Disney Channel, at least for even Stevens, but thankfully not for Lizzie McGuire.
Yeah, and there are continuity issues with some other shows. I'll be sure to check it out before we do it. Now, I know with Lizzie, a lot of people consider episode 4 to be the true pilot, and they consider the graduation episode to be the true finale. And it was marketed on Disney Channel as the finale of Lizzie McGuire. However, it was not the last to air. So to me, I don't care. Like,
Yeah, it's not the finale. That's
I,
just not how a finale works. The finale is the last to air. You don't air episodes after the finale.
yeah. And so if you listen to our previous episode where we talked about that, like, go back and that's the story finale, but we still have all of these episodes left to talk about that have nothing to do with that, or even with 8th grade, which was like a huge focus on the second part of season 2.
I'm still fully confused on what age they are. Fully confused. I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, like I can't tell if these last ones are 7th or 8th, but like it doesn't matter.
But yeah, it doesn't. It's very true.
So, do you want to just jump right in?
Yeah, let's jump right in. Episode 27, Grubby Long John's Old Time Review. The McGuire family is taking their annual family trip to Grubby Gulch, which is an old west town. Lizzie is not looking forward to it. Matt's pretty stoked. So she drags Miranda and Gordo along with her, as you do. Lizzie wants to leave the moment they get there, and Joe and Sam are like, no, we have to check out the shootout, and we have to go look at this and do this activity. And so they end up going along with it, and the trio go to get popcorn. And while they're getting popcorn, there's a cute cashier named Corey. And Lizzie and Corey are flirting, and Corey ends up asking Lizzie out to the movies that evening. There's also another younger woman working in the store, teenager, I guess she's not a woman yet, young girl working in the store, Clementine. And so Clementine and Gordo and Lizzie and Corey are going to go to the movies. Clementine's like, I'm going to bring my brother Heath. So then Miranda has someone, so she's not third wheeling. And they make these plans. And then Sam ends up getting tickets to Grubby Long John's Old Time Review, which of course are at the same time as the movie plans. Oh, so basically Gordo, Lizzie, and Miranda are like, okay, we gotta make so and Jam. We have to make Joe and Sam believe that we are like super into this. We're having a great time. So that way later, when we pretend to get food poisoning, they believe us. So that's exactly what they do. They sneak out to the movies. And as they're starting to sneak out, Lizzie has second thoughts, and she actually ends up deciding to spend time with her family, and guilt gets to her. And so she ends up not going to the movies and ends up going to the Old Time Review.
Whew.
That's the episode.
That's the whole freaking thing. And it's...
I guess the point is like, you should cherish your time with families. Like, those are memories that you should continue to make, and you should pick those over other things. I don't know if I fully agree with the sentiment of the episode. I think that this was an annual trip that they took every year. They didn't go the year prior because Sam hurt himself playing chess, which I have a lot of questions about. How does one hurt themselves playing chess? Enough to not be able to take a trip. Like, maybe he got carpal tunnel, but then they could still go. So I don't understand. But this is a trip they go on every year since they were really young. Like, they showed photos being like, oh, you were 5 in this photo and Matt was 3 or whatever. So I'm like, if this is somewhere you go every year, then go on the date with the boy. That doesn't happen all the time.
But this was their last time, they thought, or something like that. I don't know.
Did they?
Sam got to that conclusion. I feel it was like a double moral where Lizzie learned to appreciate time with family, but she also taught her parents that, like, even though things are ending, there'll be a lot of new firsts. She was like, the first time I pay for or you pay for my college.
College, yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
is true.
Do you remember Corey's old timey name?
No. Oh,
I
yes. Hezekiah.
mm,
It was Hezekiah. And
mm-hmm.
Clementine's name was Clementine. And Gordo, of course, made a comment. He was like, Clementine? And then she's like, no, that's my actual name.
He was like, that's even worse than Hezekiah.
Yeah.
Which it's not.
It's not worse. At all. Also, is like Hezekiah an old-timey name, or is it just a biblical name?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like they were just equating those. Where I'm like, I think you could have an old-timey name without it being biblical. It's just a biblical name.
Yeah. It was a standout episode in ways that I didn't need it to be, but it was fine.
I didn't love it. I got bored. I got distracted. It didn't keep my attention.
Matt doesn't get up to much, which is kind of like a bummer. I was confused because it's like a theme park, but it's also like a ghost town, and I can't tell which way we're going.
It's like have you ever been to like an old west tourist town, or like an old mining town that they've turned into a tourist attraction? Well, that's what this reminds me of.
Well,
it's not
yeah.
really a theme park, but it's a town that they've turned into a tourist attraction, so they have like little rides and things for them to do to make it so people actually travel to go there, because why else would you go there? I'm sure it's in the middle of nowhere and there's not much to do.
The main one I've been to is the one near Carson City.
Okay. I don't know if I've ever been to that one.
Oh. What's it called? But the thing is, like, I'm used to them being like ghost towns and they're like shells of what they used to be, and they might have like some touristy stores, but they don't have like the fake shootout and the puppet show and the buffet. Like, that screams theme park to me. So I was very confused about that. Like, if everything was owned by like the same company or something.
Yeah, I guess I just recently went to one in Arizona, and it was kind of like that. So they had like a big restaurant, and they had like a train ride, and they had horseback ridings, and they had like exhibits where you could see reptiles, and like it was a little theme parky. So I just like, I don't know, I just assume that's how they all are.
Fair enough.
Do you want to go to the next one?
Yeah, I have no other thoughts on Grubby Gulch.
Episode 28, The Greatest Crush of All.
This one was one of the ones when we weren't sure if we were watching all the episodes, where I was like, I could easily leave this out. It's not a great episode. It's inconsequential to the plot, but you had to watch it. Yeah.
Do you want to do the synopsis, or do you want me to do it?
Sure. There's a hot substitute teacher. Now, we wrote down that he's Scottish. I don't actually think he is. I think he's English. He sounds very English. And I think that's the point. But Mr. Keith.
His name... No, I think he's Scottish.
Why?
Because it's Ewan. That's not an English name. That's a Scottish name.
Oh.
His name is Ewan Keith. That's not an English name. How many fucking Ewans do you know? And they're all Scottish.
I only know Ewan McGregor.
Exactly, and he's Scottish.
I was just going to ask if he was or not. I didn't know, but you got so passionate.
Yes. He's Scottish. And his Scottish accent sucks ass. It's not Scottish.
That's why I thought he was English. Anyway, so he's subbing lit, and Lizzie kindly reminds them that it's poetry, and so he's teaching them the works of Robert Burns, and all the girls are obsessed with him, basically. Lizzie, Kate, Miranda, and Faruka are all obsessed with Mr. Keith, which makes Gordo also decide that he's a quarter Scottish and he's running with it. And Lizzie's like, you're Jewish. Oh.
An eighth
And she was like,
Scottish.
Gordo, you're Jewish. And he was like, I'm gonna choose to be whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. It's all very ridiculous, and it culminates in Mr. Keith is going to have a reading at the school, and there's a cultural like, I was confused as to where it was because it clearly happened at the school, but there was a cultural group involved that was like hosting the event at the school. I don't know, but he was hosting
Yeah.
a reading, and the girls came and the boys came, and there so at the same time, Fredo, the chimp, we have to go back because there's no other way to explain what happened. So in
Yeah.
Matt's plotline, Fredo the chimp that we've seen before,
Yes.
he Sam's volunteered to babysit him, and so he's at home, but then Matt and Sam have to leave, so then Lizzie's babysitting him, but she has to go to this reading, so then he gets loose in the school and he's causing chaos, and that he like pulls hair and throws food or something, so then people like start fighting in the middle of Mr. Keith's reading.
But I don't think the chimp has anything to do with them starting the food fight.
He
Because
definitely like pulls a hair in something. He like upsets
maybe.
someone, yeah.
Okay, maybe. That actually would make sense. But I just feel like he's like wrecking havoc in the gym, and then he's like on the like climbing rope, and so then Lizzie has to grab Miranda even though they're fighting, and she's like, you got an A in rope climbing, it's the only way we can get Fredo down. And so then they all leave the reading to go get Fredo down from this rope, but really he just jumps on Gordo, and they have like a heart-to-heart friend moment where they're like, let's promise never to fight over boys that we have no chance of being with anyway.
Yes, because Lizzie and Miranda have been fighting because Lizzie saw Mr. Keith first, and you can't claim him, and blah, 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 blah. And like they're baking cookies and cupcakes and squashing the cupcakes, and it's just like bringing him a book, and it's just a lot of like, and they're like picking up on every little thing that he says. If he says that they're very thoughtful or mature for their age, and they're like, oh, did you hear what he said? He thinks I'm mature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I got from that.
Yeah. I had a lot of issues with this episode, and most of them had to do with Scottish stuff. I think we've mentioned it before. I'm married to a Scottish man. I lived in Scotland for 6 months. I've been there many times. Fairly familiar with Scotland. His accent's not Scottish, really fucked me up. It's not anywhere. It's not even Edinburgh. Like,
No.
it's nowhere. It doesn't exist, that accent.
I thought he was English.
Gordo's almost borderline rude interpretation of a Scottish accent is more accurate than Mr. Keith's accent. Also, Lizzie going to this Robert Burns festival is wearing a kilt and a sporn, and I'm like, that's not for females to wear. Like, that in tradition, I don't know, it just felt like it was fucking with tradition, and it was like rude to cultural traditions. Like, men wear kilts, and of course at this Robert Burns fest, none of the men in there are wearing kilts, but a couple of the women are.
I thought Gordo wore one.
I don't think he did. Did he? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the only person in the trio wearing a kilt was Lizzie.
I thought it was Gordo, but I could easily be wrong. But I thought it was really funny that Gordo, reason he decides to go back to his Jewish culture is because the food is better. Because he goes to this buffet at the reading and he's like, the fuck is this shit?
Yeah. Yep. I did write a comment that the only accurate thing about Scotland and the Scottish tradition here is that the food isn't great.
So I thought Robert Burns was Scottish, but I didn't think Mr. Keith was.
So maybe I'm assuming, but I think they refer to him as Scottish a couple times, and based on his first name, I would say he's Scottish because that's not an English name.
So, did you make Chris listen to any of the accent?
No, he would have been pissed. It's not worth it. Not worth it.
He'd be like our first guest on the podcast, just going off.
Well, even if he saw Lizzie wearing the kilt with the sporn, it's like,
Yeah.
that's not, I don't know. It's just not, I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way.
Fair enough.
I'm all for, like, embrace the tradition, and if you have a chance to ever go to a Scottish wedding and they encourage you to rent a kilt, that's what we did for our wedding, and a lot of my family who are not Scottish chose to do so, and I really think it's a really fun, cool tradition, and it's great to dress up in the cultural garb of Scotland,
Mm-hmm.
but
Do it accurately.
like, do it accurately. I just didn't, yeah, I didn't love it.
It's if you're going to do it with cultural
Yes. And know what
like
everything is called.
mindset. Yeah. It's kind of like when I lived in Korea, you can rent hanbok, which is traditional Korean clothing. Just to, like, you can rent it by the hour and go around taking pictures, and it's super common for tourists to do that. But I only did it when I was with my Korean friend who could tell me, like, the names of everything and the significance of everything, because otherwise it's just kind of gross. Do you know what I mean?
Yep, 100%. Even, like, my ring bearer, who's, like, 8, we made sure he knew, because he was like, I have a knife in my sock. And we were like, no, Keen, that's not a knife, it's a skin do. So then he would go around and he knew that it was called a skin do. So it's like, it's just important to teach those things. These things are here for a reason. There's no touching on that, which I'm not really surprised because it's Disney.
Because the
But
guy didn't even have the right accent.
yeah, no right accent. Also, like, bigger point is, like, I hope we've moved away from young teenagers being depicted as crushing on and pining after inappropriate aged men for them.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not a storyline we need anymore. It definitely ages the show, because I know that this is something that's probably going to come up even in That's So Raven and probably Hannah Montana. But it really, really aged the show for me, because I'm like, what? Like, why can't they be crushing on the new kid in school?
We saw the same with Lewis instead of Ren, where Lewis was
Yeah.
crushing on the cheerleading coach.
The cheerleading coach, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's gross, and, like, it rubbed me the wrong way when I was watching it, but I didn't know what to, like, how to put my finger on it. But you're right, and I do remember as a kid, like, seeing episodes like this, I then thought, like, okay, so which teacher in my life is going to be the teacher I have a crush on? And I would, like, almost start to romanticize older male teachers because I thought it was, like, expected of me.
Yes, and I don't think that I necessarily did the same with teachers, but for me, even in high school, I've always been a huge concert junkie, and I definitely did the same with band members. And I think part of that also links to the media I was consuming, where it would depict young teenage girls crushing on and pining after men that are quite older than them, a lot of them being famous men, lead singers, guitarists, things like that. And so I thought it was okay. And I think we just don't need to be depicting these stories, because it's not okay.
But I also didn't like at the end when Mr. Keith blames it on the girls, and he's like, thanks for, not getting crazy like all these teenage girls seem to get these crazy crushes on me. And I was like, you should be honored.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. It wasn't great.
On to another weird one, because we've exhausted Mr. Keith. Episode 29, Grand Old Grandma.
It is a weird one.
So Gordo's grandma is coming to stay with him, and he's super excited because he's like, she makes the best brisket, and she calls me David, and Miranda's like, well, that's your name, and he's like, but you don't call me that, do you?
Yeah.
And they just have a great time. He just loves his grandma. And then she shows up, and Lizzie and Miranda come to his house to hang out with her, and she made them a dinner of appetizers. And he's like, where's the brisket? But tell me you made a brisket. I don't know why he's obsessed with brisket, but that's what he's chosen to latch onto. And we quickly find. What were we gonna
Brisket's
say?
pretty delicious.
It is. I could go for some right now. It's dinner
Yeah.
time.
But also a dinner of appetizers sounds fucking lit. Like,
Right?
I am
And
here for that.
Lizzie and Miranda are like, appetizers are the best part of the meal.
Yep.
So
And Gordo's like, where's the fucking brisket? I don't care
yeah.
about the appetizers.
And we quickly find that his grandma's changed a lot. She's clearly gone through some sort of big life change. So she like rearranges the house and calls it feng shui, and she like has them sit on the floor and eat sushi. Heaven forbid you eat sushi, Gordo. And she likes to go, she wants to go snowboarding, and she like has, I don't know, she's a fun grandma, and he's really upset about it. And then
And she changes her dress. They really comment on the fact that, like, he's like, she used to dress like a normal grandma, which, like, what does that mean? But she's, you know, he's like, now she's trying to be hip.
she literally
And-
just looks like a grandma that cares.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
has
keep calling
self-esteem.
her outfits spicy. And I'm like, I don't think they're spicy. They're just, like, a little fashionable.
Yeah. And so at the same time, Sam and Joe get sick. And how does... Oh, right. So Gordo's grandma comes to Lizzie's house to find Gordo because she wants to, like, apologize or something.
Yep.
And then she finds out that, well, she sees the house as a complete disaster because it's been Lizzie and Matt the whole time, like, lying to their parents and taking care of them.
Yes.
And so she cleans the house and she makes some soup and she takes care of everything and becomes super grandma. And in the end, like, I don't know, Lizzie and Gordo and his grandma all kind of like make up, and Sam and Joe are like, did we dream this?
Yeah, so Lizzie has like heart to heart with Gordo's grandma, where she's like, you know, like, I love spending quality times with my grandma, and even though I'm older now, I still like doing the same things I enjoyed doing with her as a kid, and I just think that's what Gordo's missing out on. Like, it's great you've changed and have embraced this, you know, wanting to do the things that you wanted to do when you're younger that you were unable to, and now you're doing them as an adult, but, like, Gordo is missing out on his old grandma. And this whole time, Gordo's like eavesdropping on this conversation, but it's through a closed glass door. And he's like nodding his head like he can hear what's happening. And I'm like, there's no way he can hear anything. But then Gordo and his grandma like connect, and they decide they're going to go on a summer trip across America together and spend some quality time.
The grandma, I want to point out, I don't remember her name. It's something with like a Rita or something, Ruth, I don't know. The actress is someone I think of as a grandma all the time because she's the one from Everybody Loves Raymond, and also is just in a lot of things as the grandma.
Yep. I really like on the side plot here for a moment. So Sam and Joe are sick. We mentioned that. And basically, the grandma comes in and cleans everything up. And then Sam and Joe end up feeling better. They come downstairs and are like, oh, do we dream that? But they're joking. And then they're like, you guys are grounded because you left the house a mess and Gordo's grandma had to clean everything up. And that's fucked up. They laid in bed just sneezing for like 3 days. The kids had no guidance or anything, and you're gonna ground them? They fed themselves. They kept themselves entertained. They went to school.
Do you not think teenagers are old enough to clean the house? Because it was really bad, and they were like eating all kinds of shit, and they were like, it wasn't just like they forgot to pick up, it was like they were having like fights and leaving everything around.
So here's the thing. I don't think it deserves being grounded. Do I think there needs to be a conversation on when you are asked to fend for yourself, how you properly take care of yourself and clean up the house? Yes, but I don't think they deserve to be grounded for it. They ate pizza, they ate chocolate syrup. They didn't, like, honestly, they didn't eat that bad to me.
Yeah, that's kind of what I eat anyway.
Yeah, I think at
They
one
don't.
point Lizzie's like, I had an ice cream sundae for dessert and pizza for breakfast. I'm like, girl, that sounds like the two best times to eat those meals.
Mm-hmm. And they don't have a pet to kill, so
Yeah,
as far as we know, they kept everything in order.
yeah. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Anything else to say on that episode?
No, it's kind of like Grubby Long John. Like, it doesn't really stand out. Honestly,
Yeah.
these first three that we've discussed, they stand out for not standing out. Sorry.
Yeah. And then we're going to start getting better and better and better.
And then we get into character development.
Yes. Episode 30, we have My Fair Larry. Miranda is throwing her first boy-girl party, I think for her birthday, but it's very unclear.
I don't think it
Lizzie,
is.
yeah, see, that's what I was confused about. Lizzie is reviewing the guest list, and also it sounds like I've watched these forever ago. I literally watched them this morning, so there's no reason I don't know these details other than that I feel like they didn't make it clear what the party is for.
I watched them forever ago.
Yeah. Lizzie is reviewing the guest list and notices that Larry Tudgman isn't invited, and she kind of brings it up to Miranda, and Miranda's like, yeah, I don't want to invite him. Like, he's not going to want to go anyway. He's going to want to do his nerdy shit. Like, he's not invited. Lizzie feels really awful about this and like tries bringing it up to Miranda, and Miranda stands by, I didn't want to invite him. So then Lizzie decides to get Gordo on her side like she normally does. And it's like, Gordo, do you remember when you weren't invited to Danny Kessler's pool party? Didn't that feel awful? Now that's what we're doing to Larry Touchman. And so they come up with this idea to give him a makeover. So he's under like a disguise. And they give him this cool like maroon suit, and he has like a blonde wig, blonde hair. I don't know how they make his hair blonde, but his hair is like blonde, and he just looks very like snazzy and stylish. And he walks in, and everyone's like, oh, who's that boy? We've never seen him before. And so Miranda approaches him and talks to him and ends up asking him to dance. And then he reveals that it's himself, that he's Larry. And Miranda starts to like flip out and get really angry. And then she has a moment where she realizes, oh, actually, like, I made incorrect judgment here. I should have invited him from the beginning. Like, I was purposely excluding him, and that was not fair of me. And she kind of takes ownership for the situation.
I liked this.
Me too.
I liked it a lot.
I like the ones where they make Larry like kind of hot and cool.
Right? Like, they really just throw Larry around for whatever, as
Yeah.
we've discussed. But like, when they give him something good, then I feel better about it.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a fun makeover montage in Lizzie's room, and they go through a lot of different looks.
Yeah.
They actually do a pretty good job. Like, he looks like Larry, but hot.
Yeah.
And it's not just that she didn't invite Larry and like he's a friend or something. It's that she invited everyone in their class except Larry.
Like, she even invites Kate, but doesn't invite Larry.
Yeah, which is fucked up. But I can understand that for the majority of the series, Larry has had like a gross obsessive crush on Miranda. And if I were Miranda, I wouldn't necessarily want someone who's treated me that way in my home. I just wish that they maybe leaned into that more in the episode, because
They
then it would
never bring that up.
Exactly. They almost make it as if he could be a romantic interest for Miranda, but they never bring it up. That's not her reasoning. They don't act like that's ever even been a thing. So then you just feel bad for Larry and ignore, because again, he gets thrown around to do whatever he wants. So like, or whatever they want him to do.
Yep. Yeah, I think they purposely didn't include the fact that Larry has had this crush on Miranda for a good amount of episodes in the series. So it played into this plot line a little bit more. Because they wanted us to feel bad for him.
Yeah. They want us to sympathize with him.
Yeah. I also think don't invite Larry, but don't invite the entire class, including Kate, who literally has bullied you and ridiculed you and put you in awful situations, but then not invite Larry.
Wasn't her reasoning like Kate's popular and if Kate
She'll
comes,
bring the cute
she'll
boys.
bring cute boys. Yeah.
Which there were no boys with Kate, so like she brought Ethan.
He's a cute boy.
He is a cute boy, but Ethan would have came regardless of if Kate was there, because Ethan likes Miranda and Lizzie.
That's true, because he's pure.
He is pure.
Apparently, he actually. I think I vaguely remember this in the episode 4, the Danny Kessler one. He's like kind of a bit of a jerk, and he's supposed to be like the bully, and Danny Kessler was supposed to be the popular kid that they liked the whole series long. And then, like, I don't know, the kid couldn't continue, or he got written out, and so Ethan became the, like, love interest. And then after that happened, he just became nice and wholesome.
Yeah. He's just dumb.
I just love it. I love Ethan Kraft so much, but I need to move on.
So, touching real quick on Matt and Alina. So, it's Community Awareness Week, and they are assigned a volunteer project. And Matt and Melina are going to be senior pals for a day with 2 residents at the Weeping Willows retirement home. And basically, they just get up to shenanigans all day with the elderly versions of themselves named Mo and Marsh.
Yep.
They're like talking with a fake squirrel, they're chasing each other, they're throwing a frisbee back and forth. They're having a blast.
Yep. And I like this one. It's a classic Matt subplot. Has no substance. Well, okay, the point of it is to not judge the elderly, basically.
Yes.
To not be just on either way, because also the old people are judging Matt and Melina in the same way, and like, what are these kids gonna do? Why it's so insulting they send them? They're not gonna be any fun. I don't know why I'm talking with this accent.
Yeah.
But no, it's a classic subplot, and overall, like, I just feel like this episode is a pretty classic Lizzie feel.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I did have notes about the main plot though. Is that I noticed Miranda was wearing blue contacts, and it really fucked me up, because for a while I was like, is she what? And then I paid more and more, like, throughout the episode. And I don't know, I've heard rumors that part of why Lillian left Lizzie McGuire early was that she felt like she was being more and more just like whitened, essentially whitewashed. So I wondered if that had anything to do with it.
Yeah, interesting.
A teenager wearing color contacts is pretty young. Also, there's a point where Miranda's like,
I love this comment. I love it.
Did you notice?
I didn't notice, but I did when I watched it, but I forgot about it. But reading your note, I was like, that's so true.
Because there's this point where Miranda's going through everything that she needs for her party, and she's like, oh no, I need a punch bowl. Where can I get a punch bowl? Parker has a punch bowl. And I'm like, how does this 13, 14-year-old girl know that another 13, 14-year-old girl has a punch bowl?
Yep. And she really was like, I don't have a punch bowl. Oh, Parker has one. It's like, what?
She just knows.
So funny.
Maybe her mom brought it to the bake sale or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so next episode, are we ready to go, or do you have more to say?
Yeah. Yep. Nope. Ready to go. Another life lesson coming in hot.
Another life lesson that almost feels like a season 1 life lesson, because it's, I don't know, it's a little zany, but anyway.
It makes no sense.
Episode 31, the Gordo Shuffle. Gordo gets a credit card in the mail. What? The guy got credit cards in the mail that were like sample credit cards. You couldn't use them. But he decides that he's going to use it to make his big break and produce his first real movie. And it has a $5,000 limit. And I just need to point out that's higher than my limit as a 27-year-old woman with an actual credit score.
Thank you very much. I was just going to say, my husband and I have a credit card, and our limit just recently got increased, so it is above that now, but it was not above that for the first year that we had the credit card. And we are both, I'm 27, my husband is 31, so like, we are well into our careers as adult people, and a $5,000 limit to a 15-year-old makes no damn sense.
14.
Yeah, I just threw out 15, but I think you're right, 14.
Yeah. But he decides that he's gonna use this baby for all it's worth. It's a fake money and all that. And so he just spends it on everything and he gives it away to people. Like he puts Kate in charge of hair and makeup and lets her spend it on a bunch of shit that not Kate, Claire lets
Claire.
her spend it on stuff that Kate decides that she needs because Kate's the star and she's being very high maintenance and Ethan can't act to save his life, poor thing, but I love him. And Lizzie's like trying to be supportive, but she's also trying to like help him. She's like skeptical about the credit card thing.
She's trying to keep him from making bad decisions. But
Whatever
then
that means.
but then that's like kind of falling against the line of is she being unsupportive, which is how Gordo feels.
Yeah. And then my absolute favorite thing is so the shoot is chaos. No, Kate can't do it. Ethan can't do it. Everything's a mess.
Yeah.
Gordo's been throwing the credit card at it for everything. And someone orders a bunch of pizzas. I think Larry, because Larry's his sidekick for all of this. So he's the
Yes.
one that's really like, let's charge her up, baby. And so to boost
So
morale,
funny.
Larry orders like 12 pizzas and the guy comes and they take Gordo's card and it's declined. And so what the guy does is cut it into triangles or in half. Or he's like, it's declined. You don't cut a fucking credit card when it gets declined. That's not how you can make a payment and then you have more money and you can use it again. Why? Also, if someone else, that's your property. Someone else is going to cut your credit card for you?
Mm-hmm. It's not how credit cards work.
It's just so, I mean, it's so dramatic the way he does it.
Yep. So while I think that this is trying to teach us the lesson of don't spend money that you don't have, which is a great lesson, it really teaches us some bullshit about credit cards.
And then, in the end, Gordo's parents like win a lawsuit or something, dispute the charges, so he doesn't have to pay any of the money.
No, I didn't get that understanding because he then makes a comment to Lizzie. They do dispute the charges, but I don't think they go away because then he makes a comment to Lizzie where he's like, I'm not going to have allowance for the rest of my life. So I think he's saying that his parents are holding him responsible of paying it off with his allowance money, which I'm sure would take him until he's 18 to get $5,000.
I think they just got rid of his allowance as a punishment the way you would ground someone. I think they were just like, you're spending too much money, we're gonna get rid of it.
Oh, see, I took it as his money was gonna go to pay off the credit card.
He made some comment about them disputing the charges and I was like, excuse me, you're getting away with that shit? Yeah. You spent $5,000.
Yeah.
I've never spent $5,000 on anything.
Yeah. I think we should mention that credit cards are a great tool to build your credit, and as an adult, it's very important. So I think some of this messaging that we were taught as children against not getting credit cards or credit cards being these awful things were a little scare tactic, because if you ever want to own a home, get a low car loan, any of those things, you need to develop credit and have a credit card. But also there's proper ways to use credit cards. So I think this story had a message, but also it's a little scare tacticy of like, credit cards are scary, avoid them your whole life.
I just don't pay for anything that I don't already have the money for. I use it to build up my credit and get the cashback deals, and I pay it off each month.
Yes.
Anywho.
That's how you should use a credit card.
In addition to this, Matt and Melina are back at it, working on a science fair project. So and Matt keeps putting it off and then makes a giant contraption to make toast. That's it. That's all I remember. But that's because I read it from your summary. Yep. But it's like, it's by a giant contraption. Isn't it like a domino effect thing?
Yep.
It's like he builds it in the backyard where he like starts
like
the dominoes.
A race car.
And then, yeah, where like a million different things go off and then eventually toast pops up, but like it ends up burnt or something.
Yeah, it ends up burnt, and it's just stupid because it's not a science project.
No, it's like
It's not a
physics
science
or
project. Yeah. Maybe it's physics.
fake engineering.
It's some sort of science, but I wouldn't say it's a science project. Like, that's
No.
like testing a hypothesis and stuff. He didn't do any of that.
Yeah. I like how you seemed a little unsure if hypothesis was the correct word.
I wasn't sure.
I was waiting for you to say hypotenuse.
Well, it shows you how far removed I am from science, so...
So, wait, I have a question, because you've watched this more recently than me. Where's Melina? Because she's in this somehow. She does, like, a real project, right? She builds a volcano?
No, she does something with, like, a skeleton making it dance or something. I don't know. But she only mentions it briefly. We never see it. But where Melina is in this is, there's a little montage of her and Matt in his room, like, trying to build different things for the science project. So they're, like, connecting, like, whisks and kitchen utensils to build, like, a little, like, robot out of. And then they're like, nah, that's not good. And then they keep, like, trying different things together. There's, like, a little montage.
Cute. Yeah.
It's a dumb Matt line. I think the storyline with Gordo is pretty funny, even though there's a lot of
inaccuracies.
Holes in the plot, yes.
Yeah. I'm a little milquetoast about it all. I feel it's a little milquetoast. Whatever. However you use that word. Episode 32.
I don't think I've ever heard that word, so we're just going to go with it. My dinner with Mr. Dig.
Do you want to do this one?
Sure. The trio run into Mr. Dig at lunch, and he's eating fast food, and they have a conversation with him, and he's like, fast food's all I consume. And then Lizzie feels bad for him that he doesn't get a home-cooked meal, and so Lizzie invites him over for dinner. It does not go as bad as she expected, but then Sam and Mr. Dig really start to hit it off. They have a lot of similar interests. They're into the same bands, and Mr. Dig starts coming over and hanging out with Sam, and it just makes Lizzie feel uncomfortable. Like, she can't escape school if her substitute teacher is going to be in her house every single time she comes home, and that's her safe haven. And so she talks to Joe about it, but then she kind of has this realization that, like, Joe and Sam let her bring Gordo and Miranda over whenever she wants, and if she's allowed to have her friends in her house, then Sam should also be allowed to have his friends. And if that so happens to be Mr. Dig, then that's how it should be. And then this kind of like with which what I meant by that sound effect was merges with Matt's plotline. And Matt is struggling with his teacher. Her name's Jasmine. So Matt's struggling with his teacher, which I'm pretty sure her name's Miss Chapman, but it's Jasmine. And she's just being really mean. And so Matt saw how well it went having Mr. Dig come over. So Matt invites Jasmine over for dinner. It's super awkward. She's like judging the family on everything. She's like, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat meat. I don't do this. I don't do that. And then Mr. Dig shows up to return something to Sam. And they have this little like, oh my gosh, Digsby, Jasmine. And they like rekindle from, I don't know, when they've known each other before. Mm-hmm. Oh, maybe Mr. Dig is what made Jasmine want to be a teacher in the first place, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then they leave together to go out for Chinese. And so is this. That's that episode. It's not my favorite. I also have problems with if you invite a teacher over for dinner, mm-hmm. can they say yes legally?
Yeah. Why not? It's not like you're bribing them.
Sure. It just seems a little inappropriate, doesn't it? I guess that I have, like, gone out to eat with teachers before in high school.
I have not.
Yeah, but it would be, like, as a class thing.
Oh. Like the German dinner.
Yeah, or we would do, like, an Avid dinner every year.
I didn't have a problem with the teachers having dinner. Let's be clear, it's not that they're just like friends now. It's like Sam is coming to Lizzie's school to give a CD to Mr. Dig, and Mr. Dig's like in their fridge getting all their food out when she arrives. Like he's at her house before she even gets home.
Yeah.
So it gets a little overboard, and I get why she's upset about it. She's way too cool about it. She gets out of it easily, and it's a lot. Honestly, the biggest problem I had with this episode was that the entire catalyst, I don't know, there's a word in there somewhere that I mean. The reason that it unfolds, that she invites him to dinner, is that all he eats is junk food, and she feels
Yes.
bad for him. This wouldn't happen. A teenager would be like, God, I wish I only ate junk food. I have to
Yeah.
eat mom's casserole.
Yeah. Also,
They're
I
like,
think of
oh,
the
my mom makes
way
some.
I think of the
Sorry.
way I ate at that age. And
Mm-hmm.
like, sure, I eat dinner at home almost every night. My dad's a chef, so we ate good for dinner. But like, I ate crap. I ate so much fast food.
Yeah. It was like a treat that you tried to do all the time because it felt like you were getting away with something and it was good.
Yeah.
And
And you
also
have a
they talk
growing
about like,
body at that age, so you can like put down calories like no one's business.
mm-hmm.
And like, I just feel like kids eat a lot of fast food, especially when you're that age where you start receiving allowance and you're hanging out with your friends and you're going to the mall. So I don't think you're going to judge a teacher for only eating fast food.
No, it felt like Lizzie being the voice of reason about that was because like she was saying what they want kids to say. She
Yes.
was making Joe McGuire proud, but I don't think that Joe McGuire would, with how much time that Lizzie spends at the Digital Bean, she really doesn't care uh,
Sure.
about what she's eating. And they're talking about Joe's meatloaf, like, oh, my mom makes the best meatloaf. Oh, I love meatloaf. No kid says that.
I'm sure there's a child out there whose favorite meal is meatloaf.
Probably. Also, the other point that I had was that Matt's teacher and Mr. Digg are complete opposites, and them being into each other is kind of it's left field. But okay, I'll take it.
Yeah. Opposites attract. Episode 33, one of the guys. They're doing the presidential fitness challenge, which I'm pretty sure, side note, is that like stupid thing that we had to do in gym where it's like
Mm-hmm.
you put your. Is it called the presidential fitness challenge? Is that really what it's called?
Exam.
Exam. Okay.
They call it a challenge in Lizzie, but there is a presidential fitness exam that we all have to take
Okay.
every year.
Yes, I remember taking that every year. I didn't know that it was literally called the presidential fitness exam. So
Yeah.
they're doing this in gym, and Lizzie ends up doing a pull up longer than everyone in the class. She even beats Ethan, and she beats the school record for the longest held pull up. Ethan challenges Lizzie to an arm wrestling match, and she wins. And this is kind of as like a rematch for like her beating him on the pull up. Once they realize like how strong and athletic she is, they invite her to play flag football, and she has so much fun. She's loving it and she's enjoying herself, and she likes that she's doing well at something. And we learn this with Lizzie, that she really enjoys to succeed, and so you really see her succeeding and having a good time. And then Kate makes this comment about how she's just being a dude and how none of the guys are going to want to go after her, and she's just one of the dudes, and that's all they're going to see her with as. And so then she decides she needs to like wake up at 5:30 in the morning and do her makeup and do her hair and dress more girly, whatever that means. um and she's having a really hard time with this because she's enjoying doing stuff with the guys, but also she doesn't love the comments that Kate made, and they're getting to her. And so she goes and talks to the gym teacher. And the gym teacher was like, you can be strong. I do Olympic weightlifting. I'm very strong and athletic, but I also love swing dancing and sewing. And like, your interests don't need to fall all in one bracket. You can have interests that span all different types of things, whether those are things that boys do or things that girls do. I love this plot line because I hope it's something we're moving past and we're speaking more openly about gender roles, but especially in the time that this was airing and in the time that we grew up, you know, the separation of what a guy sport is and what a girl sport is, and things that are girly and things that are manly, were very, very in your face, especially when you were in school. And I think that this is something that any athletic woman growing up struggles with. I know I struggled with it. And so I think it's a hard thing sometimes to feel like you want to be you want guys to crush on you. You like boys and you want boys to crush on you, but also if you feel like you're constantly being friend zoned because you're one of the guys, or you're just being seen as a dude because you enjoy doing more athletic or manly things, it's really tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I played a lot of sports growing up, and like I can relate to it, and even without personalizing it, it just was really nice to see. Like I just really love the message and the idea that you can be both and you can be whatever you want to be.
And
Um
I love, yes, I love that message, and especially that it was shared with her, to her, by the gym teacher, who
mhm.
also has clearly dealt with the same thing and kind of gave Lizzie personal examples, which I liked.
Yeah. And as a millennial who grew up with watching way too much TV, I enjoyed that the gym teacher is played by Dot Marie Jones, who is also Coach Beast in
Yes.
Glee, and gives a very similar like message in a lot of episodes of Glee and like defies expectations. Um, which you wouldn't know growing up watching it because Glee hadn't come out. But anyway, but also then I worry that like she's being pigeonholed into one type of role. But
Yeah.
regardless of that, it's kind of like fun to see like that she's had the same sorts of roles. I like that she has the voice of reason. Um, Also that Lizzie has the most upper body strength. Like you might think that that's unrealistic, but girls actually develop quite a bit of upper body strength. I don't have any now, but I was really strong at that age and I could do as many push-ups as a lot of the guys. So, I kind of liked that that was in there, that that was her thing.
Yeah. Well, and also I like that in there. I also like that she was the one who was doing like the winning passes on the flag football and stuff like that. Like it wasn't like she was just playing with them and that was it. They showed her playing and succeeding. Like
Mhm.
she was an asset.
Yeah. And the guys appreciated her for that.
Mhm.
And they didn't understand why the back and forth with her personality. And I thought that this part was like I don't know what it is, maybe it's budget, but I feel like you can always tell when something's filmed on a set and when something's filmed on a location, because once it's like properly outside, the quality just goes down. And that's how I felt when they were like playing flag football.
Yeah.
I don't know any. I have other notes, but the thing is I don't know who said this because I know someone said nobody likes you, Kate. And
Which is true.
I also know that someone said, "So let's go out there and make those boys wish they were never born."
Oh, I love that. I don't know who said that.
I think at the end when Lizzie goes back to playing, does she go back with Miranda or something?
Yeah, but Miranda doesn't play, but Miranda supports her.
Mm.
Um, Matt doesn't want to do his homework. And so
Mood.
Fredo does it for him.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe and Sam proud of him. They get a call from school and they're like, "Wow, you're doing great, Matt. This is awesome. Like, we know you don't love math, but you're doing your homework and it's really showing." Then somehow Joe and Sam find out that Fredo has been doing his homework. And then they get upset at Matt that it wasn't him doing it and that he had the chimp complete it. What I'm confused about is like, why were they upset at Matt and not like, what do you mean a chimp has been doing your homework? Like, they never once questioned the fact that Fredo was doing the homework. They weren't like, huh, what do you mean the chimp is smart enough to do your math homework?
Hey, well, Fredo's owners come at the end and they're like, "Yeah, he always struggles with long division."
Yes, that does happen.
This was also the time period when people were really into thinking about like how smart primates are and chimps. Like I remember
Yeah.
around the early 2000s my cousin was living in Los Angeles and she got to be on an Animal Planet show where she was blindfolded and had to like solve a puzzle against a chimp and like see which one was
Oh,
faster.
who was faster?
I don't know. I don't
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
but I feel like this is a time when we were really like into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. I don't know. I think how do you teach a chimp Math, I wouldn't know, but I'm not that smart, and I'm still trying to learn how to train my cat, so.
Yeah. Also, like, Matt, you don't need to know how to do long division.
The fact that he's smart enough to bribe Fredo into doing his math tells me that he's got all the life skills he needs.
Yeah, I agree. Got a calculator? That's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say right before we do this, I was looking forward to finishing Lizzie McGuire, and now that we're on the last one, I feel like I'm on the edge of a cliff.
I know. We still have the movie.
Episode 34, which came out 3 months after the one before it, in February of 2004. They really pulled the last episodes out.
Mm-hmm.
Magic Train.
So, Lizzie and Miranda want to go see Clover and Daisy live, which is like a live show of a little kid's TV show of like an elephant and a mouse or something. I don't remember what their creatures are, but it's like it's like when the Wiggles went live. You know, this happened a lot. I think it still happens, but it happened a lot in the early 2000s where these TV shows would go on live tours. So this is it's a kids television show geared towards, you know, toddlers and younger children, and they really want to go see this live show. It's their feel good show. They both enjoy it, but they're a little embarrassed because they're like, we're too old for this. And Gordo's like, fuck them, we should go. If we like it, we should go. We enjoy it, let's go have a fun time. Like, let's not care about social stigma. And so they're getting ready for the show, and they're having so much fun, and they're enjoying it. And Lizzie ends up winning the winning ticket of like the fun basket for Clover and Daisy. And that's when they realize that Kate's there, because Lizzie jumps out of her seat because she can't believe she won. And Kate's there babysitting her sister or niece or something. And takes photos of them, and she puts these photos all over the lockers at school. Gordo could not care less, but Lizzie and Miranda are really embarrassed. And eventually they're like, you know what? Other people like Clover and Daisy. It makes us feel good. We enjoy it. So during lunchtime, they end up busting out one of their songs, and everyone at school is singing it with them. And it kind of helps them work past their embarrassment, that it's okay to enjoy something because it makes me feel good, regardless of what age it's designed to be viewed by. Matt's plotline is he starts a dirt museum. And so he keeps telling Joe and Sam it's his study group. And they're like, these are a bunch of different groups of kids, many which are not in your grade. Like, this makes no sense. And so Matt, like, is just taking them into rooms and showing them, like, this stain from when Lizzie barfed, and this sandwich under the bed that has fossilized because it's been there for so long. And the big exhibit is this giant dust bunny that he's just, like, hidden from Joe so she can't vacuum it. And it's like this huge, unrealistic dust bunny. And so Joe ends up finding out what Matt's doing, and that it's not a study group, and that it's actually a dirt museum, because like these boys knock on the door and are like, we're here for the dirt museum. And Matt's like, oh, you mean the study group? And so then Joe gets back at Matt by bringing out the vacuum and vacuuming up the dust bunny.
Yeah. But one of his customers was
Ethan Kraft.
In Lizzie's bedroom, looking at her filth.
Yes. While her and Miranda were getting ready to go see Clover and Daisy live, she has like her hair in pigtails, and little like animated Lizzie is like, oh my god, I can't believe Ethan is seeing me like this.
Yep.
I like this plot line. I think that if you like something as a kid and it still brings you joy, you should continue to enjoy it regardless of what people tell you or not. Obviously, there's boundaries to that, but I think for the most part, it's a really, really great plot line.
Aside from it not fitting as a finale, it almost kind of fits as a finale, because I feel like we've emphasized so much how they're getting older that then it's nice at the end to look at how they can still enjoy things that are young. But regardless, it works really well for this podcast, for this to be the episode we end on, because this is what
Yes.
we're doing, is enjoying content that was made for people a lot younger than us, made for us when we were young, and
Yes.
we're still enjoying it today. And obviously we're not shameful of it because we've made a whole freaking podcast about it.
Yes. Yes. We're trying to do quite the opposite. We're trying to make a business out of enjoying things that bring us joy, that are designed for much, much, much younger audiences.
Mm-hmm. Is there anyone that you wish you had seen on tour?
Huh.
Like, because I feel like the Wiggles were like the Beatles of children's tours, but there were others. Like, I've learned that the Big Comfy Couch and Arthur and Dragon Tales and a lot of those went on tours.
Oh, I would have been so down for a Dragon Tales. I don't know if there's any ones I wish I missed out on. As a teenager, I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
do this as a kid. As a teenager, went to Disney on Ice every single year
Wow.
and loved it. And it was something that B and I just did together, and we're like, we enjoy this. And it was geared towards, I would say 7 to 12-year-olds was kind of what it was geared towards, probably 7 to 10-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
And we went every year in high school because we just loved it. It was so good.
That's so sweet.
And we just didn't care.
Yeah, because you
Really.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One year, we didn't necessarily babysit, but we did take my mom's coworkers' kids with us.
Mm-hmm.
But that was just because they wanted to go too, and it made it so my mom and her coworker could have a adult night out, which you need.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just think it's sweet.
I think it's a very, very important episode. It comes across in kind of a cheesy, fun, kooky way that Lizzie McGuire is great at doing, but it really is an important life lesson that like what you like, regardless of whether it's quote unquote embarrassing or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have no other thoughts other than,
I love
like,
this one.
what?
Are you going to bring up Ethan being horrendous at dancing?
Okay, so I don't know when this happens. I think it's when he's in the dirt museum or something. I don't know. Or no. I think it's when they're singing the song at the end.
It's when they're singing the song at lunchtime.
Okay, so this is the only note I had for this episode, which is that Ethan being horrendous at dancing is my favorite reoccurring trait.
Yeah.
And I've said this in other episodes of our podcast, but every single time that boy tries to dance, it truly melts my icy heart a little bit more, because
Yes.
it's just, and they're singing a children's song like, we're Clover and Daisy, we're da 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 da, and he's like trying so hard to pump his arms, and he wiggles around like he's doing the worm, but he's standing up, and he's just a mess, and I love that boy.
I love it. So good.
Such a good episode to end on. It's bittersweet that it's ending, but don't worry, because we still have the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I said that way. Sorry.
Nope.
It's fine.
I'm here for the theatrics.
So, neither of us are particularly prepared to battle this out. Lizzie McGuire, season 2, has had a butt ton of episodes.
Yeah.
34 to be exact.
Yeah.
And so, do we remember all of them? Not particularly.
No.
However, I've tried to go through and pick what I consider to be some of the top tier, some of the bottom tier. Keep in mind, very few things are the bottom tier, and there's a lot of things that could easily be top tier, and it depends on what you're reading it at. Depends on, like, are we going for story? Are we going for lesson? Are we going for commitment? Because things like the casino night, easily could have been a best if it didn't, if we were going for that. So,
yeah.
With that in mind, I've put options for, do we want to do best first, or do we want to do worst first?
Let's do worst first.
Okay.
And I think you put the right ones there.
Okay, so my options for worst, spelled completely incorrectly on our doc as I wrote it, Grubby Long John's Old Time Review.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fine episode. Grand Old Grandma.
Mhm.
And I put this one specifically because I rewatched for a second time a lot of season 2 because it took us so long to record. This is the point where I started this one and I said, you know what, I'm not going to finish the rest of season 2. So for a second rewatch.
Yep.
And those Freaky McGuires, which is the Freaky Friday episode. Those are the options for worst. What are you
Yeah.
thinking?
So I think it's the Grubby Long Johns, only because similar to the Aaron Carter one, I found myself getting, which was what I think we said was the worst in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself getting so distracted. I was constantly distracted. I like could not pay attention to the episode for the life of me. Like, it just did not entertain me. It did not hold my interest. But if we were going like true kooky done bad, the Freaky McGuires is probably the worst kooky done bad of this season. Sometimes they do kooky great, like that Monte Carlo night one is kooky done great, but sometimes they do it just bad. And the weird, like, Freaky Friday, Matt and Lizzie's body, Lizzie and Matt's body, it was strange.
Well, I think the reason that I put Freaky McGuire's here is that what I can respect about Lizzie is that she's always trying to do something different. And by she, I mean the show. Lizzie's always trying to do something different and make a point. And Grubby Long John and Grand Old Grandma are doing something that we don't see in other shows. But Freaky McGuire's is recycled storyline. It's decades old content that then they didn't execute well on top of that.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is why, to me, it had to go in here. I enjoyed it as an episode. Like, I enjoyed the whole acting switch. But I enjoyed all of these episodes. Like, truly none of them are bad. I just think that, like,
I think where the
Hmm.
Freaking McGuire's, like, I watched it, I didn't get distracted like I did in Grubby Long John's.
Mhm.
But also, I specifically remember from Freaking McGuire being like, oh, the acting in this episode is not great. Because, like, child actors to begin with, that's hard, right? It's hard to find
Yeah.
a really amazing child actor. And at this point, Hillary understood her character. And I don't remember that actor that
Jake
plays
Thomas.
Jake
We had
Thomas.
almost this exact soundbite.
But anyways, they understood who they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
When they switched, it just was not great. Their acting went really, really downhill, and I remember noting this. So, like, for that reason, I might say that it probably is the worst episode of the season, even though it wasn't my least favorite to watch. But that's not what we're voting on. We're voting on what's the worst.
Yeah. And to me, I watched Grubby Long Johns multiple times. And I don't hate it as much. Like, I didn't get as distracted through it. I don't care about the acting as much, but the writing for the Freaky McGuires felt lame.
Which maybe
not
affected
lame, but
the
cheap.
acting.
Yeah.
Like, the acting might have been bad because the writing was not as good as it is in some of the other episodes.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think we're going to say the worst of Lizzie McGuire season 2 is
Freaky McGuire's.
Those Freaky McGuire's. Sorry, but not, because it's... Also, I'd just love to say, though neither of us remembered it, that Frankie Muniz episode kept itself out of this category despite what we gave Aaron Carter.
Yep.
It was middle of the road, solidly. And for best, our contenders are... And you can, Jessica, you can throw something in here if you want, but I've put Magic Train because we ended on such a fun, nostalgic note.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guys, I know it's our penultimate episode, but it's just got such a great message. And in Miranda, Lizzie does not trust. Now, I almost put the other infamous Miranda episode instead, but this one stands out to me more, where they use Miranda to teach us quite hard life lessons, and this just felt like it was better executed. But feel free to make any arguments.
I would like to also throw in there "And the Winner Is," which is the one where they're all fighting and Mr. Dig puts them on a scavenger hunt around town.
I love a scavenger hunt episode. I do.
Yeah. Well, and I liked that, like, we saw Gordo paired up with Kate, which we don't see a lot. And we got kind of like, I don't know, there was fun little, like, antics in that episode. And
Mm-hmm.
even though like, Gordo, I don't know if Gordo and Lizzie ever fight. I feel like mostly I guess they do. But
Yeah.
Lizzie and Miranda mostly fight, and then Gordo's there. This is one of the few where all three of them are in a big fight.
Mm-hmm. I'm
But if I
trying
were
to.
to pick one, which I'm like, I don't know if it's because it's fresh in my mind, but I really, really loved One of the Guys. I think it's such a fun message. It's something that, like, a lot of people can resonate with.
Mm-hmm.
Though I hope gender roles are something that we are working on redefining and understanding that they don't need to be as binary as we were taught as children. I really, really, really liked that episode a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I would go and watch it again, and I just watched it today.
It's really well done, and it feels like Lizzie, but a little bit grown up.
Yeah.
Even though I don't remember it. Like, most of these episodes that we put down are not episodes that I remembered. I think season 1 is probably a bit more iconic than season 2.
Yep.
I'm trying to look at subplots to see if that could change anything. But I don't know. We should be judging it based on what we remember.
Mm-hmm.
So, the subplot for, oh god, one of the guys is the chimp homework thing, and Magic Train is the dirt museum. So, and in, yeah. So I don't think. So we're ruling out Magic Train.
Yeah.
Okay. You like one of the guys, and you like the scout, and the
Yeah.
award goes to whatever.
Yep. And the
I
winner
like.
is.
And the winner is. I like one of the guys, and in Miranda, Lizzie does not trust. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess we go with one of the guys.
One of the guys.
This doesn't feel very climactic, but the winner for best episode of Lizzie McGuire season 2 is one of the guys. Woo! I'm not gonna put sound effects in. I'm just gonna leave it awkward.
Okay, great. I love that. Where are they now? We're not going to get super deep into this, mostly because life's been crazy and I didn't have time to do as much research as I did for Even Stevens. But Hilary Duff, I think we all know, she went on to have a pretty successful music career as well as acting career. She also has other endeavors. Like, I know she has I think it's like a diaper slash, like, what is that called? Like, all natural baby care line. She's written a few books. She's written most recently a picture book that was released. It's a children's picture book that was released in March of this year. Her music career didn't last super long, so she released 4 albums from 2002 to 2007, and then released her 5th studio album in 2015, which was Breathe In, Breathe Out, and then really hasn't done anything musically since.
4 albums in 5 years is a lot.
That's a lot. Oh yeah, it's a lot. And she toured, and she was my first concert. Like, she was very, very successful in her music career, just in that's not the path she chose to continue on. She kind of chose to stick more to acting. She does a lot of films and TV shows, and Younger, I would say, is her, like, biggest, most recent thing. So that was TV Land's longest running comedy series. It did a spinoff, was in the works, piloted. And then that it was piloted and it got scrapped. The Lizzie McGuire revival, which we've spoken about, that has gotten scrapped. So not released, or is it released? I don't think it's released yet. How I Met Your Father?
No, it's filming right now.
It's filming right now. And so she's in that. And that's kind of her biggest project that she's working on right now.
Yeah, is the lead in the How I Met Your Father, How I Met Your Mother spinoff. Um, Music career was actually really successful though. It felt like, at least to me as a kid. And also I felt like she really evolved through all those albums. I did not realize that was just over 5 years. I just needed
Yeah.
to say that.
Well, yes. So Breathe In Breathe Out was 2015, where the fourth album was released
Yeah.
in 2007. So there was a lot of time in between those. But yes, the first four albums was not that long. Really, she was
Mhm.
doing an album a year, which is really impressive when you think that she was still doing TV and movies, and she was touring and making music and recording it. That's a lot to put on someone who is that young.
Well, and you even just think about how much her music evolved from
Yeah.
Metamorphosis to her later albums where it became more adult. Like,
Yeah.
it was a huge growth she went through.
Yep.
But moving on, Jake Thomas, most known for his role in Lizzie. Uh,
Most known for his role in Lizzie, went on to play Jason Stickler and Corey in the House. He does acting roles here and there, but
mhm,
mostly just like single episodes or couple episodes of TV shows. So he doesn't really do recurring roles, just guest features. He
mhm.
most recently was in a 2019 episode of SWAT, and then on the side he does commercial photography and does some director roles.
Hmm.
That's really not a lot on him. Like he doesn't really star in movies or anything like that. It's really just TV and just guest features in TV shows.
Whatever pays the bills, I guess.
Yep.
Hallie Todd is active and continues to have fairly regular movie credits.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's super active. Big
Mhm.
actress, still doing things.
Which I think,
She
sorry.
I was gonna say she wrote two books, both about sounds like one based on the titles and the brief descriptions I wrote. One's about being a child actor, and then the other is about raising child actors. And so
Nice.
she's wrote books about kind of reflecting on her life. So that's interesting because they're not
Yeah.
nonfiction, or they're not fictional. They're not more nonfiction. Um,
Mhm. I think Hallie Todd and Robert Carradine are like two of the more successful parents we're going to see from Disney because they had careers before Lizzie and they continue to have careers after Lizzie.
yes, and where Hallie Todd still one of the most well-known things that she's known for is Lizzie McGuire, even though she's continued to be a very successful actor. Robert Carradine, most of what he's actually well known for is his films well before Lizzie. So he's very
Mhm.
well known for his films that he did in the late 70s and 80s. And then he did Lizzie, but that's not really like his acting highlights were well before Lizzie.
Yeah.
And
But he
so
still works.
he's still working. He's
Mhm.
getting that money. He does a ton of movies. So he got a producer credit in Human Zoo. Most recently, High Holiday came out, which he stars in, and he's working on pre-production for 3 other movies currently. Kind of funny. He was on an episode of Celebrity Wife Swap where he switched wives with Terrell Owens, who's a footballer, right?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure footballer.
That's funny.
Um, I thought it was hilarious because I would like to go and watch that. I used to watch Celebrity Wife Swap. I don't think I've ever seen his episode of Celebrity Wife Swap.
I didn't know that was a show, or it sounds
Wide
vaguely
receiver.
familiar.
Terrell Owens, yep, wide receiver.
Lelaine,
Miranda.
Lelaine, who played Miranda Sanchez, left during season 2. There's speculation around why she did it, but she just missed the last 6 episodes of production, which are the ones that she misses in the middle of the run, air order. Um, Pursued a musical career, signed with Warner Brothers Records, which as a kid, as a teenager, I knew that Hollywood Records was owned by Disney. And so anytime that someone was on Hollywood, I was like, well, Disney just gave them a record label. But anytime they got a record label, a deal outside of Hollywood, I was like, they're talented. They can sing.
Yeah.
I remember Emily Osment was also on Warner Brothers, I believe, or something else similar.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But she only released one EP and one studio album, and that's it. She starred in You Wish shortly after.
with
And
AJ Trouth from Even Stevens.
yep, and she did television series of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She also starred in Easy A.
But by
She's done
starred, I
some.
don't remember her in Easy A.
No. Yeah, like minor roles. And then she's done more like recently short films and independent films. So Definition Please, more of an independent film, and then The Man with the Red Balloon, which does not have a release date, but that's a short film, and she's starring in that.
You can also find an episode of hers on Christy's Kitchen Throwback, which I didn't expect her to do because she's someone who seems like she doesn't really like thinking about her Disney days, and she's not on social media really, and is someone who did struggle with addiction in shortly after Disney.
Yeah, so she got
She was charged with
federal warrant. She was charged with possession of methamphetamines.
yeah, and she mentions like
In
some of her
2007.
struggles with Christy. Yeah. So, but I hope she's in a better place because she's great, and she honestly has star power that I think was underutilized.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
She has a ton of star power. She could have gotten her own spinoff, truly.
Yeah. Oh, that's a trivia fact.
Oh, okay. I'll keep that in my brain.
Oh God, I shouldn't have said anything. It just triggered a memory that I wasn't gonna quiz you on, but now I realized. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Adam Lamberg.
He's most known for his role as Gordo. I know we mentioned this in when we first went over who the characters were. He works at an Irish art center in Manhattan. His last credit is from 2008. He played Reggie in Beautiful Loser. He was going to join the reboot before it got canceled.
Mm-hmm. That's all we really know. Seems to live a private life.
He lives private life.
Doing
his
That's
own
it.
thing.
I feel like we almost should have started with him and then moved our way up to Hillary.
That's not what we chose to do.
It's not. I just want to say I really respect Hillary and the way that she's like not as much older than me as I thought that she was when I was young, and she's really like made her career. She's been classy. I mean, everyone always looks at her when they're talking about like, oh, the Disney stars fall off the wagon, blah 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 blah, and they're always like, but Hillary didn't. She's the only good one, and I think that's bullshit. I think
She's had scandals too.
She's had some scandals. I mean, while she was on Lizzie, she was dating one of the guys from Good Charlotte who was like 6 years older than her. But beyond that,
Joel Benji. I don't know which one.
One of them. I always forget which one. But beyond that, I think like don't judge stars for what they go through after Disney and like they're going through their identity shit. Regardless, I think she's done a really good job of doing what she wants as an adult and pursuing the projects that she wants and like remaining true to herself and having kids and a family and prioritizing that and being a hot mom. Like, I love that.
If you want a good Instagram follow, go follow her husband, Matthew Coma. He's a huge songwriter. Like, if you think you don't know Matthew Coma, you 100% know her husband. He is an amazing, incredible Hollywood songwriter. He produces and writes a lot for pop music. He has his own band, but less popular. But go follow her husband. They poke fun at each other. They post the most hilarious stories. Matthew and Luca, who is
her son,
Hillary's oldest son, they started this during quarantine, but they'll come up with these like crazy kitchen creations where they just like put a bunch of stuff on a spoon and then make Hillary eat it.
Ew.
So funny. So I would highly recommend, if you want like a fun follow,
I
to
need to
go
go follow
follow.
them.
Yes, you do.
Should we add Lizzie to our rankings?
Let's add Lizzie to our rankings.
So if you didn't listen to our Even Stevens episodes, first of all, do it. Second of all, I get it. You didn't watch Even Stevens, whatever. But we rank at the end of watching a full show, a full series. We will rank our shows on out of 5. Half points are acceptable. Jessica and I each rank, and then we do an averaging. So the categories are overall. How was the show? It's pretty straightforward and nebulous at the same time. Impact of the show, star power of the show, rewatchability. Was it fun to watch?
Mm-hmm.
And does it hold up? Relevance. Do we
Mm-hmm.
find this offensive? Is it still a good laugh? Is it still applicable? And then we average them out. And this is how we're going to keep a very controversial tally of the shows that we watch.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to go with yours first?
Yeah, so I went. Do you want me to go through all of them, or we'll go each category?
I mean, let's go each category.
Okay, so overall, I gave the show a 4.5. I loved it. I just loved it. It's a great show. It was so much fun to rewatch. It was one of my favorites growing up. I loved Hilary Duff. This really is what got me like obsessed with her as a fan. I mentioned she was my first concert, but there's so much more. I was a huge Hilary Duff fan, and a lot of this was to Lizzie McGuire. So I really felt that nostalgia rewatching. So that's why I gave it a 4.5 overall.
I gave it a 4, which is, not bad at all. Technically, I guess I'm sorry. When we look at our Even Stevens rankings, I gave Even Stevens a 4 and Jessica gave it a 5, and that's embarrassing. But we can't go back. We can only go forward. So I gave Lizzie McGuire a 4. I have a lot of similar feelings about it as you. But I did knock it for the continuity issues because season 2 is just tonally so all over the place, and also the episodes for continuity reasons are all over the place. And I get that it's a production order versus an airtime order, whatever. They chose to air these episodes out of order, and that to me, I had to break it down. But 4 is still a very respectable score. It's a very wonderful show, and I enjoyed rewatching it all of the time.
Impact, we both gave the same. So I gave it a 4.5, as did Amanda. I gave Impact a 4.5 because I felt this is what put Disney on the map as a channel that can create successful TV series, original TV series. It really put Disney on the map for this. Even Steven started, but Lizzie is where they hit it.
And that they could create successful sort of teenage superstars, these brands around their stars. Hilary was the first to really go out there and have her albums and have her tours, a lot of which started while she was on the show. So it brought a lot of money to Disney, and it's got a lot of impact on us as viewers. Everyone remembers Lizzie as like the best show from Disney. However, I knocked it a half point because I don't think it had the biggest impact on the channel. And that I'll get into more in our next show that we're watching.
Yeah. Then
Star
we have
Power.
Star Power, which I know Amanda doesn't agree with, but I kept it the same as Even Stevens, and I gave it a 3. And the reason I gave it a 3 for Star Power is Hilary Duff. You have Hilary Duff. She's the star. Sure, you had Lane, but as we discussed, she went on to pursue music and really didn't do much after that and made one album. Hilary Duff is really the only true star to come out of this, not including the parents who were already very successful prior to Lizzie McGuire, so that's not what gave them the star power. And that's who you have.
Okay. So, I mean, you gave Even Stevens a 3 for both as well. I gave a 3.5 for both Lizzie and Even Stevens. Shia and Hillary have both had huge careers. Well, Shia's had a bigger career outside of Disney than Hillary has, so I would almost, you know what, okay. Do you know why I gave it a 0.5? I gave it a 0.5 because of Lillian's untapped potential. I think
Sure.
that the star power was there, it just wasn't used. Also, what was used correctly was Ethan's star power.
Sure.
I'm just pulling into the acting. And you could also, okay, look, we haven't properly defined these categories. We're making this shit up as we go. You could argue we've got Steven Tyler, Aaron Carter, and Frankie Muniz in this show.
You could argue that. Yeah. I think I would dock it half a point if we're considering Aaron Carter in there, but you know.
At the time, he was the biggest one to us.
Sure.
Now I'm like, they got Steven Tyler.
Yeah, that one's very impressive to me.
Rewatchability.
Rewatchability, I give it a 5. Slapped.
Mm-hmm.
Slapped. If you are rewatching this with us, I'd love to know your opinions on this and how you felt about the rewatchability. If you're not rewatching this with us, go rewatch it. It's so worth the rewatch. It's so good. It's better than what I remembered.
I think I'm being harsh. I gave it a 4.5. It's still a respectable score. I gave it a 4.5 because I had to rewatch twice. And the first time I was with you, this is better than I expected, and I'm having a great time. And 2 months later, when I'm rewatching a second time, I'm like, I've seen all of this shit before.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. 4.5, it's good.
It's good.
We'll see it. Probably no one will top that. And does it hold up relevance?
We both gave the same one for this as well with the 4.5. I think it holds up really well, actually. There's a lot of awesome topics. Wearing a bra that's discussed. Being friends with your mom. Like, there's a lot of really body image. Like, there's so many awesome things that are touched on, that are being continued to be touched on in media more frequently these days. So it's very impressive that they were being touched on in the early 2000s. There's some things that don't hold up. A lot of the making Miranda dress up as a boy, the gender stereotypes they play into in this show a lot do not hold up. So there's a few things that I would say I don't love, but for it being filmed in the early 2000s, I think it really does hold up as a show.
I also gave it a 4.5 for the same reasons. I think, it's really funny, but there's a couple comments in there that I could have lived without, and inaccuracies and stuff like that.
Yep. But so that averages out to a 4.3 for me and a 4.2 for Amanda. So Lizzie McGuire ends up as a whopping at a whopping 4.5.
4.25.
Oh, guys, let's just redo that. That's a 4.3 for me, a 4.2 for Amanda, which makes Lizzie McGuire end up at a whopping 4.25 compared to Even Stevens, which is at a 3.7. We'll see if we get higher than a 4.25. I don't know if we'll do it.
Yeah. So currently our rankings are in second place, Even Stevens, and in first place, Lizzie McGuire.
Yeah.
I'm really, really curious and excited to see how Raven is going to compare, because I have such high hopes for Raven.
Me too. And it's one where, like, I definitely watched it when it was premiering, but I haven't thought about it a lot. So I'm excited to rewatch it, actually, to see, like, what I remember and what I don't. This one is more age appropriate as far as when it was filmed to when we would be watching. So I think I'll remember more of the episodes than I realize I'm going to. So I'm pretty excited about it.
I've already started it and I have nothing but good things to say. So if anyone listening, that's what you can look forward to. Next up will be the Lizzie McGuire movie. Possibly another decom thrown in there, depending on if we're feeling
Yeah.
spicy.
Yeah. Do you guys want us to watch Cadet Kelly? Please just respond and tell me yes, because I want to watch Cadet Kelly, so I want you to want us to watch Cadet Kelly.
It's a crossover like we've never well, we have seen many times before.
Yes.
So
But you get some even Stevens. We got Chrissy Carlson Romano. We got Hilary Duff. I think it would be a cool little thing to throw in there. So if you have Cadet Kelly feels, let me know, and maybe we'll throw it in there.
And so we'll definitely do Lizzie McGuire movie. We might do Cadet Kelly, and then we'll get to That's So Raven, which is exciting. So please follow us on all of the things so that you know
Yes.
as these episodes come out.
Yes, please follow us on YouTube, 90 Babies Nostalgia, spell out the word 90s. Same on Instagram, 90s Babies Nostalgia. I'm not going to shout out our Twitter because it hasn't been active. We've been struggling. If I get it together, I'll start shouting it out again. Um, but
Same
yeah,
with TikTok.
follow us on the socials. We'd really appreciate it. The engagement we've gotten so far is really, really fun. So we hope to keep that up. And if you have any opinions to share about Lizzie or about the Lizzie McGuire movie, which we're going to watch next, let us know. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah. And all of our links to all of those socials that Jessica mentioned are in the descriptions of wherever you are listening or watching. You can also find the links for Patrick Dunavant, who made our amazing theme music, and Don Wheeler, who made our very cute babies artwork, which we have just plastered over all of the things.
Yes.
I identify with those babies now.
Yeah. Try to avoid using our faces. I mean, it's an hour and a half on YouTube every other week, so babies are cuter.
Yeah. Do you have anything else?
Nope, I think that's all. Just please let us know what your thoughts on Lizzie are, and we hope that you enjoy watching, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for Lizzie McGuire movie.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.